Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 6. Now, we are talking today, this week about bank liquidity. Bank liquidity is actually one of the most important topics in financial institutions and in the coverage of our unit. The way I planned the slides and the recording for this week is I divided to 3 parts. This is the first part. It will take only 5 minutes. Maybe 7 minutes. It's only 4 or 5 slides. Now, you don't have to worry about part 1. Part 1 will not be included in any future assessment, including tests, exams, whatever. It is not included. I just want to bring it to you now. So when you go to part 1 and part 2 of the slides of this week, at least you have some background about this liquidity. As I told you, liquidity is one of the most important topics in this area of banking. And it has, it was one of the most important issues that discussed during the financial crisis. Now, please spare with me maybe 5 to 7 minutes. Look at the materials before you go to the main part 1 and part 2. So just let me share. So this is actually, as I told you, this is introductory file, which is part 1 introductory slides. Has nothing to do with any future assessment. This is another issue to say that this material and these slides is just for explanatory purposes. Those slides actually used to be in my main slides, but I don't want students to be confused with them, or some of them will start, trying to study them or whatever. And this is why I separate them here. You will be only responsible about, you will see what we will see in part 1 and part 2. Okay, now let me go to the first issue. We have heard about the term liquidity so many times. But we have 2 types of liquidity, one called market liquidity. And we have touched a little bit about that when we talk about the financial institution specialness in week 1, which means when it's about the spread between buying and selling financial securities. And whether that, when we measure that liquidity by that spread, whether it's high or low. So if I can sell my assets, if I buy this bonding, for example, bond or securities or shares or any other type of financial securities, and I want to sell them, the difference between buying and selling or liquidating those holdings is very minimal. And this is actually comes with huge tradings and those financial markets. Some of the markets, we say, oh, American market is very liquid. Japanese market is very liquid. Maybe the following markets are not very liquid, as liquid as that one, which means it will take some time for the asset to be sold. And if you want to rush and sell them, then in this case, there will be fire sale, which means you have to sacrifice a little bit. Now, that is not our concern. It's only our concern if we are relating it to selling the assets, selling the securities of the bank. But our concern is actually here. Our concern is actually in bank liquidity. Now, liquidity in banking refers to whether I have enough cash or securities that can be transferred to cash immediately to meet any unexpected withdrawals. Look at the definition here. So it refers to the ability of a bank to meet its financial obligation as they come due. It can be more from direct cash holdings or currency accounts at the Federal Reserve or in central bank. And as I told you, our main concern in this week is mainly bank liquidity. Now, let me go to the story. And I think I will just make this, this is how it works. So we will have some type of liquidity dry up for one reason or the other. Maybe it comes from credit risk, maybe it comes from less deposit coming, whatever. So there is always, in any banking day, there is always withdrawals. But those withdrawals are not going in parallel, for example, with the deposit additions. So the deposit withdrawals is maybe higher than the deposit additions. Now you have something like a drying up of liquidity. And if this has happened, you have to do something. What you will do something, you will go and borrow. This is how we are going to borrow. We can borrow from another bank. We can borrow from the market. We can borrow even from central bank. Or we can sell our assets. And when we say sell our assets, we sell our securities, okay? Now, whether we borrow from banks under this stress of liquidity and drying up of our liquidity, whether we borrow from another banks or we sell our assets, we will have to sell those assets less than the market price because we are rushing, and maybe we borrow in higher cost. Both of them will bring us higher cost of fund. Now, if this higher cost of fund continues, and it is actually material amounts, that can start and eat our capital, and will take us to potential insolvency risk, which is bankruptcy. Now, the problem until now is still inside, and the bank maybe can manage. The problem is when others feel about this this liquidity dry up, and that the bank could be stuck with the liquidity, then depositors lose confidence. And this is the biggest problem. And we go to something called bank run. So people now who come to the bank are not actually the normal people who were 10% or 15% and expected people coming to withdraw because they need the funds. These are coming and running because they want their money. Because if they are late, distribution of funds will come for first served. This is how the banks are liquidating. They will just give to the people who come first until the money is finished. If you are the next in the line and the money finished, you are queuing in the line. So the money finished, for the one person who is standing in front of you, either online or a physical, queuing, it's over. So everybody has to run. So when there is a bank run, what you do, you run. So, and if this is happening, then there'll be a bankruptcy and you have to seek protection from the. So as you can see, liquidity risk actually can be risk to earning because it's high cost of funds that decrease earnings. And I'm talking about this area and this area. I'm borrowing higher and I am selling my asset cheaper or in fire sale. Number two, it can be risk to capital because if there is an excessive losses, it can eat the capital and bring you to bankruptcy. And then we have this issue of bank run, which for sure will lead to liquidation because you will have around 80–90% of your customers are waiting in front of your branches and ATM machines and internet banking and all these issues. So it's when it comes to bank run, it's just over. Okay, having said that, regulators were very careful about that. I mean, this is the cases. I can tell you this have been cases, because a lot of students tell me, sir, we want to see cases. Well, we have cases in Malaysia in 1999, Bank Negara Malaysia, because the regulators, when there is a problem, the regulators will come and take over the bank and liquidate it. So in 1999, Bank Negara Malaysia had to take control of MBA Finance Berhad, the biggest finance company. This happening actually, I'll just give you cases actually from everywhere. We have cases in Malaysia, and this happened in 1999, and you can read about the case here. We had some in South America in 2001 during the Argentina economic crisis, 1999 to 2002. We have in Asia, in Myanmar, we had seen something in 2003 where there was a banking crisis and there was bank run. All of those is actually could be cases of bank runs or just those actually, most of them are bank runs. So in USA, we have in August 2007, the American firm, which is countrywide financial suffered a bank run. We have also on Tuesday, 11 March 2008, bank run began on securities. Bear Stearns is one of the biggest actually funds. There was a bank run because people want their money. 2008 also we have this is DMAC, and DMAC is one of the two banks that supported by the US to support the housing loans, and actually this is actually related to the subprime issues and the financial crisis. And this bank was seized by the federal regulators. And 25 December also, we have another cases, which is Washington Mutual. In the US, you have so many things. They also in 2008, Wishofa, the fourth largest bank, was, it has so many, operations. So they sell when they were under this stress of liquidity, they sell the banking to Citigroup, which is another banking group. And then the whole bank actually was sold at the end to Wells Fargo. Now in Europe, the famous case we have, and I will share with you a video today, was the British bank Northern Rock. And this is actually was a bank, has no problem, but because of this financial crisis started to be in the US, Northern Rock was liquidated simply because of bank run. In 2008, we have another case in Iceland, and also we have another one in Netherlands. So as you can see, all those bank runs recently, just the last 2 decades, actually causes, the cause of it was liquidity. And as I told you, it reached to here. When the bank confidence is gone, now the bank run starts. Maybe if there is no problem, if the bank could manage, but because of this, contagion effect and this panic that liquidity shortage can cause to the market, this is why we have to have a bank run. Now, regulators are smart also. Whether you talk about Basel III liquidity reforms, they have two what we call ratios, LCR and NSFR, and this is requirement for Basel III if you are going to work with liquidity. And also they introduced what we call deposit insurance, and we will talk about it when we go to part 2 of this week materials. Deposit insurance is now we don't have to run because the government will guarantee us up to 250,000. So they want to decrease and this is one of the schemes that come on after the financial crisis. And we have also other local regulations. They ask banks, central banks in those countries are asking, their bank, regardless of Basel, they have local regulations. And if you can look at this, you can see we have in China, they have, this is liquidity requirements, and this is the ratios you have to have. So all of this, you are not responsible to know them. You just look at them as, matter of information. But what I want to say is that actually all of those countries have actually, you have China, you have Hong Kong, you have India, Japan, Malaysia, we have the pockets. This is from Bank Negara requirements, regardless of the basic requirements. We have the Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, all of them will tell you something about, liquidity requirements from their financial institutions. Taiwan, Thailand, it's just the US, they don't have, specific requirements. In the Australia, you have 8% if you don't have a system. Now, I remember I collected information. This is collected information for 2019. And I found the liquidity in the banking on those countries. I find India is the least. I find China, okay. United Arab Emirates, just Middle East, 14%. Now, one student asked me, he said, oh, more liquidity is good, sir. I said, more liquidity is good, but you cannot have 30% liquidity, cash and securities that can be converted to cash. That's already inefficient. It's a matter of efficiency. So when we talk about actually liquidity, if you look at the Australian, they are talking about 8%. So you are talking about 7 to 10%. That is the ratio. Like Malaysia now, they are talking about 5% buckets. So, but you can see now, for example, Indonesia 26, Russia is 27, Japan is 30. It could be the market is not, there is less demand for loans, or it could be efficiency. Either a market is actually not very a demand in the market, and maybe the economy is and recession status or whatever. It could be like that, or it could be in some other countries just bank cannot use their liquidity. So this is actually data, and it's recent data. Now I have finished this one. This is all the slides I have for you today. I brought you this case, and I want you to, this is the Northern Rock case. It's here, and I want you to also to watch it. I think it's here. You can look at it, and it's actually very nice. So it's, oh, you cannot hear. Anyways, we'll just please look at it. It's a very interesting case, and I want you to look at it when you, that is the link, and please look at it, and hopefully you will like that. We will talk about this in class more. We will talk about it in these slides when we come to that. This is all I have until now. I don't want to take more of your time. Thank you very much, and have a good day wherever you are. Bye-bye.